Welcome to the Just Interesting podcast. The podcast that's less interesting than skydiving, but slightly more interesting, only slightly, than watching a wall of magnolia paint. That's kind of the most boring thing I could think of. With me today, as always, a stalwart of the Just Interesting podcast, it's Alex.
Hey Martin,
How are you, mate?
I'm good. I like that intro. That was nice. That was very, very fresh. I liked it. Yeah.
Well, it's a bit different, isn't it?
A bit different than what we're normally used to. Yeah, I'm excited today though, Martin, because for the first time ever, we have a guest on the Just Interesting podcast.
We do. We have a guest, and just before we introduce this guest, I'd like to say that we chose him purely on his enthusiasm for the Orson Welles. Oh, the French champagne. He is an OG fan of that particular meme, if you want to call it that. It's Jamie from the SuperShow. How are you, Jamie?
He doesn't do anything? I thought I'd kick things off with a reference immediately. I hope pretty much everyone listening to your podcast knows what the Orson Welles thing is. Otherwise, I don't know, I might have just lost you 30% of your viewers right off the bat.
I think we've managed to whittle down our audience to only people that are aware of the Orson Welles meme now.
You'll get there. Week on week, you'll get there.
Yeah,
it's true. How are you, Jamie? How are things?
Not too bad, thanks. I'm really excited to be here. I didn't actually realise I was the first ever guest in the Just Interesting podcast. That's both flattering and also a little bit scary, but I'll do my best to kind of live up to that title and keep everyone, if not entertained, then, you know, not bored. That's the bare minimum, right?
That's what we go for.
I mean, it's a stretch to say we entertain, but to not bore is probably more accurate.
I mean,
yeah.
That intro, Martin, who wasn't entertained by that? You got the Magnolia Paint reference in there. It was all kicking off.
Well, yeah, we try our best. So you're a gaming fan, a gaming enthusiast, probably the most enthusiastic gamer that I know. You play a lot of games. You know, it only seems right to see what you've been up to. What have you been playing recently?
Oh, God. Do you know what? Recently, in gaming terms, it's been pretty first-party Sony game heavy. I think many people have noted the release perhaps of The Last of Us Part 2 just last month. Rattled through that very quickly. And now I'm on Ghost of Tsushima, which is a new third-person action-adventure game set in feudal Japan. So that means I've spent the last week kind of just, you know, cutting throats, cutting people's heads off, stabbing people in the back, just lots of bloodshed. And that's kind of the way I like to keep my gaming, as bloody and gory as possible. It's fit the bill for that. That's pretty much it, though.
Nice.
I mean, that sounds like a lot, because those games are quite big. I mean, I played The Last of Us 2 as well. No spoilers, because I'm sure there's people out there
like
who
me.
finished it.
I haven't even played it yet.
Like you. No, exactly.
Catch
no
up,
spoilers
baby.
for you.
Catch up.
But that is a visceral game, isn't it? There's a lot of bloodshed. There's a lot of neck slicing. Yeah.
There is a lot of neck slicing. And again, not to get too kind of caught up in the goriness of The Last of Us 2, but also a lot of dog maiming, which I know sets a lot of people, you know, kind of on edge, myself somewhat included. That's a weird thing to have to do in a video game, and you do kind of have to do it a few times.
You do.
Don't know
it's
what it
nice.
is with Sony and, forcing you to kill people. But that's how I'm spending a lot of my free time, just straight up murdering.
So, Alex, you're also into your games, aren't you? We might as well go round. What have you been up to? Been playing anything, or?
Yeah, so this week I started and finished playing The Outer Wilds, which
Hell yeah.
is a game that I don't want to give too much away, because it's one of those that if someone does want to play it and they haven't played it, I'd really recommend it, but it's best going into it with very little information, I think. But it's very much like the way it's like someone played No Man's Sky. I don't know if you'll agree with this or totally disagree with Jamie, but it's like someone played that game and hated it and decided to make the exact opposite, but kind of keeping with that same thing. So it's very like this handcrafted solar system that you have to go out and explore and kind of uncover this mystery, really. But it's really good. I really liked it, and the story I thought was really great.
Isn't there like a cycle to it, right? There's like an event that's about to happen over and over again, and you replay it, like Groundhog Day kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I've only heard, without giving much away, that's basically it. Yeah.
I think about that game a weird amount, you know, because we streamed it back in the day when it came out, and I'll be honest, because I was playing it on stream and talking to the chat and this, that, and the other, I didn't really get it. and I just spent a lot of time dying and crashing my spaceship and drowning and all kinds of madness, going into black holes, the usual space shit. And then all of a sudden, over the course of the rest of the year, last year that was, it became a critical darling. And it was loads of people's game of the year. It was getting ridiculous amounts of praise. And so I acknowledged I do need to go back and kind of have a more considered look at it, which it sounds like you're doing now, AB.
Yeah, even though the world's not actually that big, it really kind of, it's very evocative, I think. It really makes you feel things, you know. And I haven't felt anything in years, so that's amazing.
Wow. There you go.
At least since the start of lockdown.
But also, it's kind of fits a little bit into the main topic that I wanted to talk about today, which we haven't actually announced yet. But the title of the video would give that away anyway. It's "Are We Living in a Simulation?" Yeah, so we'll get into that in a little bit later. But first, I want to find out what you've been playing, Martin.
Oh. Well, it's a little bit more embarrassing, really, because I wanted to have a bit of a chill-out week for various reasons. So I played a bit of Call of Duty online, but it's a bit intense, really, after a while. So I've dived into a kind of a point-and-click mystery, Poirot: The ABC Murders.
Hey, there's nothing
very chilled.
You're just preparing. You're just preparing for when we bring back In Plain Sight.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting your mystery brain going again. Yeah.
Although, to be fair, I am a big Poirot fan. Anyone that knows me really well knows that I've got the box set of all the DVDs at home. I've got the complete collection. I'm a Poirot fan. I'm not embarrassed about that. It's great. David Suchet is a superb Poirot. But yeah, it's point and click, chilled out. You can play it when you're feeling a little bit lethargic. Although there are some puzzles that you go through that have an increasing the difficulty scale ramps up quite a lot towards the kind of middle and end to where I am. So I haven't cheated at all on it, but at the same time, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. It does get harder. So anyway,
I love the contrast, but that you go from Call of Duty to Poirot. Poirot mysteries.
In fact, you might be the only PlayStation 4 owner on planet Earth that has both of those games in their library simultaneously.
And I've been playing a bit of Prey as well, which is kind of somewhere in between.
Nice.
It's quite intense, actually.
Very good game.
It's quite an intense game.
Very good game.
But very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
And in fact, Prey also ties in almost exactly to the theme of today's podcast, funnily enough, now that you mentioned that game.
Yes, no, true. Without giving away too much.
I don't know if that was intentional or not, but yeah.
But I haven't played that game this week, Jamie, so, you know. I don't know
well,
what to
I'm
do
sorry,
about
Alex Brown. Someone's got to throw out more segue options around here. I'm just trying to do my part, okay?
Yeah. But, yeah.
So, what have you guys learnt this week? That's what we do on this show. We ask each other what we've learnt, because learning is fun and learning is interesting. Does our guest want to go first? Jamie, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll
you've
kick
learned
things
this
off.
week?
I mean, I haven't learnt much. I'll say that off the bat, but then that's sort of standard for me these days. I kind of feel bad being the person that comes on the Just Interesting podcast and evokes the whole COVID thing, because I'm sure you guys have been through it. You've been there and back again multiple times, because I'm sure not only is it in your wheelhouse, it's probably what people want to hear. But I've been reading a delightful article this week, courtesy of the New York Post, about a Californian woman who had a little bit of a mental breakdown in a restaurant called Panera Bread, which we don't have out here, but it sounds quite delightful.
I think it's quite a big deal in the States, isn't it? Panera Bread.
Apparently so.
Okay.
From what I gather, quite delicious sandwiches and even soups at very reasonable prices. So at the end of the day, why wouldn't you eat
We're
there?
not sponsored by Panera Bread, just to clarify.
I should clarify, you're not, but I am. They are my personal sponsor. I am brought to you by Panera Bread, and everyone should eat there. But I feel like nowadays, especially with some of the videos that have gone viral in recent weeks and months, you mention a Californian woman losing her rag in public, and people get a very certain idea of what they might be getting angry about, and this is exactly that. This was a classic Karen situation, as the internet refers to them nowadays. A woman who was refusing to wear a mask and subsequently was being refused service. But what I thought was interesting, and I wanted you two guys to pick this apart, because I can only assume, in terms of the people I know, the people in my circles, you two have to be considered experts on the pandemic by now. Karen believes that masks won't do anything in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic, because they do not stop the smell of farts. And I'm just putting it out there. She's got a point. Because I haven't farted in the vicinity of a mask, very often, but it has happened, as these things do. And there's some seepage. And if one thing, if sample A can seep, why can't sample B? Answer me that, Martin.
I imagine, I mean, in terms of the scientific makeup of COVID, I don't know. I know there's been a lot of debate about whether it's transmitted via people coughing and sneezing, or whether it's kind of, for a better word, hangs around in the air, right? So it's suspended in as particles in the air, or whether it's pretty much only as soon as people sneeze or cough or whatever, and then kind of dissipates. Again, I'm not a scientist. I don't know the exact way that it spreads, but it seems like one of the main things that they're discovering now is the thing called the viral load. So, for instance, if you were to fart directly into someone's mouth from a very short range, you'll have a lot more load of the fart than if you were to do it as seepage, as you mentioned, from a distance, right? And I think this is the same with people coughing. So if you cough directly into someone's mouth, it's very different from if you're coughing from 4 meters away. Only a few of the kind of the droplets get there. So the effects of the virus is much reduced. And I think that's one of the reasons why people should, in my opinion, be wearing masks, is this whole thing about viral load and the fact that the effects of COVID are much reduced. Even if you catch it, they're much reduced if you're wearing a mask. It seems to be the case. Now, that's a very serious answer to what is a farting case, but that's my 2 cents.
No, but it actually makes sense, because I suppose you could then flip that around on the Karen and say, if you stood in the middle of a Panera Bread and then farted and asked everyone in the whole store if they could smell or detect the fart on some level, there might be some people who would receive such trace amounts of it that they wouldn't, in which case a mask could have prevented it entirely. But AB, before I ask you your thoughts on farting, I wondered if I could hit you with a quote from the woman in question.
Feel free, yeah. I'd love that.
She says, "You think that mask is going to protect you? You fart out your ass, you can smell out your ass, you think that mask is going to protect you." She repeated it for effect, I think.
I like how the first line is the same as the last line.
I mean, again, it's for effect. Yeah. She really wanted to get this point across that, hey, folks, you fart out your ass, you can smell it out your ass, and you think that mask is going to protect you? Question mark.
I think Martin pretty much nailed it. Yeah, I guess I would just pose the question to Karen. If someone you had to have someone fart directly into your mouth, wouldn't you prefer that you did have a mask in front of your face when that happened? If you had to.
Well, that is it, right?
Yeah.
You would choose a mask over your face. It would still be bad, sure, yeah, but it would be a bit less bad.
In fact, I'd go so far as to say that if unpleasant flatulence was a common side effect of the coronavirus, it probably would have spread less. People would be happily staying indoors. Like, actually, I'm not going to go to the beach or the seaside like you did last week, Alex Brown. Shots fired. Because everyone's farting everywhere.
It's true. It's fair enough.
It's true.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have gone to the seaside last week had it smelled like farts. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Food for thought, that's all I'm going to say. That segment of the podcast brought to you by Panera Bread.
By Panera Bread.
Nice.
Fantastic. Well, this week I learned about social media companies and them blocking search terms and accounts related to QAnon. So as you guys and a lot of people at home probably know, QAnon is the far-right conspiracy, basically saying that there's a plot by the deep state against President Donald Trump. So all these celebrities, and especially people on the left-hand side of the political spectrum, are involved in kind of paedophile rings, and a lot of the stuff associated with Pizzagate a few years ago. And that when Donald Trump was elected president, he kind of blew this whole thing wide open. Now, I think the main thing that comes up from this is, okay, a lot of these social media sites are banning people from speaking about it. They're banning accounts associated with it. Is this another curtail of freedom of speech, or is it justified because QAnon is having real life impact on certain people? So there have been, of course, like threats, death threats, in particular, on certain public figures who are being targeted as part of the deep state. So I wanted to get your guys' input. Do you think that that they're right? Twitter this week, earlier on, 3 or 4 days ago, banned 15,000 QAnon accounts, and today TikTok has also banned certain search terms related to it. So they're really cracking down on QAnon specifically, this specific conspiracy, because of these real world implications. Just want to get your thoughts on that.
I mean, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because we've discussed this kind of thing before, but it's always like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, I don't think that it violates freedom of speech rights at all. On the one, like for one, they're a private company. Freedom of speech doesn't really extend. They can control what goes on their platform, but by censoring these people, by taking them off your platform, it kind of makes them feel like their conspiracy theory is even more correct, isn't it? It's like, oh, the people at the top want this to be quiet, so it doesn't even help it might not even help the quashing of that conspiracy theory, if that's what they're hoping to achieve by this. But then maybe it does. Maybe it's less people are seeing it, and ultimately less people are going to be convinced by their madness.
That's true. And I think it also includes something that we had an issue with on a channel that shall not be named. The fact that they're banning certain hashtags and certain search terms means that information about the conspiracy, whether it's endorsing it or just providing information and almost showing how ridiculous a lot of this is also being quashed, right? Yeah. Which means that that a lot of the source of information for maybe a more balanced view about this is what the conspiracy theory is, these are the points that people believe, and these are the reasons maybe why there are holes in it, is also being overlooked too, which I think is an issue as well.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, sort of jumping on what Alex was saying. It almost does sometimes feel like when you take censorship to that degree, you are almost tapping into an element of, do you know, like the Streisand effect, where I'm sure it's something that comes up quite a lot on the podcast, where the idea or the intent to hide or remove something or censor something actually shines a greater spotlight on it, because people start to question why it was removed in the first place and where it still remains and where they can find it. And there will definitely, I'm sure, like Alex was saying, be some people who are almost so determined to believe in something or so determined to want something to be true that they will look at censorship like that as perhaps validation of whatever it is, whether it's conspiracy theories or anything around that. But at the same time, I can 100% understand why a platform like Twitter would see a decision like that not as an attempt necessarily even to censor, but almost just to clean up their platform, where they don't want certain users engaging with their platform in a certain way. They don't want their platform to be seen as a safe space for certain types of individuals or a place where they can congregate. So it's a very fine line to walk, and it almost feels like lose-lose. If you let that stuff linger, then it could grow and manifest into something that Twitter actually end up don't liking, because for a whole number of reasons. But if you try to nip it in the bud, then again, it kind of gets mirrored back on you, and people start to ask, why are you being so strange and pussyfooting around this subject and trying to quash conversations or whatever the case may be? So it's a strange one for them.
It's just been interesting watching like different social media's reaction to these kind of conspiracy theories and conspiracy topics over the last few years. I mean, we've obviously had a personal impact with us. And you're so right, Martin. Like, there's a difference between banning, people who actively support QAnon and endorse their conspiracy theories than just someone who mentions QAnon in passing as part of a larger discussion and a more balanced discussion about that. We're obviously not endorsing QAnon, but if YouTube removed this video because we've mentioned it several times, just the word, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah. We shall see. But
hopefully not.
It's an interesting one. I mean, the reason they're doing it is to prevent what they call swarming. So basically targeting people for no real apparent reason apart from believing that they're part of the deep state. Which, I mean, I'm not sure if there have been any cases of actual physical real life harm to people, but in terms of this like online abuse and targeting, especially celebrities' accounts. Who was it that was targeted recently? I think it was Chrissy Teigen, I think, was one of the people who was targeted. Of course, that's really not very nice, and so they're wanting to crack down on this, which makes sense because it definitely seeps over from just being a theory into affecting real people, and that's what they're doing. And so Twitter have taken this action, TikTok have taken this action, and interestingly, Facebook are also looking into doing something similar too, which is interesting because of their kind of stance previously on Donald Trump and his comments. I know, of course, this takes it a lot further than that, but it's interesting given their stance that they're coming around to kind of align with the other platforms. It'd be interesting to see if this kind of covers other theories and other thoughts too. It'd be interesting to see how far this spreads on these platforms.
Definitely, yeah. Well, shall I say what I've learned this week?
Please do.
So this one, I've actually got to thank Robin for showing me. Did you see the story about Ukraine hostages? There was a hostage situation in Ukraine where someone basically took a bunch of hostages on a bus. 10 hostages were taken. And this man who had taken these hostages at gunpoint, basically, whose name was Maxim Krivosh, which I've definitely, I wouldn't take my word for it. That's definitely not how you pronounce his name.
Just Max. Max to his friends.
Yeah. Max to his friends basically wanted to be on the phone with the president of Ukraine during this hostage situation, and he wanted the President Zelensky to promote a film that starred Hollywood actor Joaquin Phoenix.
He's a good actor. Why not?
Yeah.
Which film?
It was it was an early film from like 2005. It's a film called Earthlings, which is narrated by Joaquin Phoenix, and it's an animal rights documentary which won several film awards. And it shows with hidden cameras like the practices that major world industries do, that in animal factories and that kind of thing. Just saying like how bad humans are. So he wanted
I imagine, he's trying to promote that, right?
He wanted to get President Zelensky on the phone during this hostage situation as part of the negotiation, and for him to publicly endorse this film, and only then would he release the hostages. And eventually they were able to get the president, who had to come out of like an important meeting, on the phone with this guy. And after that phone call, he released some of the hostages. And then later on, President Zelensky posted a very short video on his Facebook, just saying everyone should watch Earthlings, the film Earthlings. he agreed to his demands. But then, true to his word, the person who took the hostages let them all go and was obviously arrested. But everyone survived. And then the president thanked all the police involved. Yeah.
So, he took them hostages, but do you say by gunpoint?
Yeah.
So that is extreme, isn't it?
I will say, it's a bit of a shame that it was just by gunpoint, because when you first introduced the story about hostages being taken on a bus, Alex, I thought you were going to say that if it dropped below 30 miles an hour, it was all going to blow up.
Yeah, I just watched this really interesting documentary this week called Speed.
It was narrated by Keanu Reeves, if I remember rightly, and fascinating true story.
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock?
But I guess my question is, they always say, we don't negotiate with terrorists, we don't negotiate. But like in this situation, was the president right to cave into his demands? Or now, every time someone wants something for him, are they going to take a bus full of people hostage?
I think you can negotiate if the value is under $10.99 for the DVD cost.
It depends if it's streaming or not, I guess, is what we're saying. If it's on Netflix, then sure.
That's the thing. Did he say? He must have said where you can watch it, right? He went on howtowatch.com and found a list of websites where it was playing.
I don't think so.
That is weird.
I don't think so. I think he just said, it was a very short video just saying like everyone should watch this film. So really, the gunman should have pushed for more. Like everyone in the country gets a DVD of it or something.
Exactly.
I'm intrigued. to see any figures or stats about whether this actually increased sales or streams of this particular film. If anyone, I mean, I'm sure some people are like, I've never heard of that film.
I'd
I'll
never
watch it
heard
now.
of it, but like now I have.
Yeah.
So mission accomplished. Really, shouldn't say that.
I
Really,
suppose so. But then, I don't know, it does seem a little bit convoluted. Like, I understand trying to raise awareness of environmental issues, but to do it through a hostage situation, and specifically like within the country of Ukraine and through the president, like assuming that will reach a lot of people. I mean, we joke that it has actually reached us, and now will reach everyone who listens to this, and so on and so forth. So maybe that was the plan all along. But I can't imagine Max was on the bus holding the gun thinking, I can't wait till the Just Interesting podcast listeners find out about this one. Everyone's going to know we should be more nice to animals. It just seems a little bit convoluted.
yeah.
And I guess, to answer your earlier question, for as much as a lot of people take the stance of, no, we don't negotiate with terrorists, I think this is just one of those situations where the president comes out of that meeting, finds out what he has to do, and just says, fuck it. Like, of course I'll
Yeah,
make a
for
quick
goodness
video. Who
sake, not
cares?
again.
Yeah, let's
Not
get that
again.
guy out the bus and lock him up. Get him out of here.
There's quite possibly some psychological issues there, because he could have been shot dead over wanting people to watch a DVD
Well, he very
or
nearly.
VHS, probably.
I think he did fire some bullets, and he very nearly shot the Ukrainian chief of police. Like
Mental.
Yeah,
Good
it
God.
was only by luck. I think he was standing very close by. So yeah, I mean, it's very very lucky that people weren't hurt in this instance, or there was no loss of life. But yeah, so
Goodness.
it's a pretty mad story, I thought, and that's
That
what
is
I
mad.
learned.
That's
this
a
week.
good
That is
one.
Yeah,
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And luckily, no one was injured or hurt. And Joaquin Phoenix can line his pockets a little bit more. So,
conspiracy theory. This was all planned and funded by Joaquin Phoenix.
yeah, I like it. Yeah. Well, possibly Ukrainian ties.
This was the hidden message of Joker. Most people missed it, but if you rewatch the last 20 minutes of Joker, that's actually what he's saying, is that actually everyone should riot and take to the streets and promote my 2005 film Earthlings, or whatever it was called.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, nice.
Before we get into our main topic, I'd like to have a look at some of our comments for this week. Alex, do you have anything to hand that you thought was worthy to be mentioned in this podcast?
I do, Martin. So, yeah, this comment comes from Lee Burkett from last week's podcast on our personal favourite UFO sightings, UFO cases. And he comments saying, I think the Kecksburg UFO incident is very interesting. On December 9th, 1965, thousands of witnesses from 6 states reported seeing a fireball as it travelled through the sky. Multiple residents in and around the Pennsylvania town of Kecksburg reported seeing the fireball, but reported that it changed course a number of times before crashing in a wooded area. Local police and local radio stations were inundated with phone calls. Eyewitnesses who went to the scene reported seeing an acorn-shaped craft, still smoking on the ground, and an obvious trail of broken tree limbs and a long furrow in the ground. Dozens of people report that within hours, US military showed up in force and eventually carted the object away. Have either of you heard of this case? Because
Yes.
I think we did.
It's a good one.
Did a video on it on the previous channel that must not be named. But actually, I totally agree with you, Lee. When I was deciding on my favorite cases, it was really a toss-up between the Kecksburg incident and the one that I actually went with, the Ariel School incident.
Likewise, Alex. For me too, it was between Kecksburg and the Shag Harbor incident.
Oh, really?
But,
Wow.
I mean, Shag Harbor is just the best name of any UFO incident, so I had to go for it.
And one
But
of
yes,
us had
we
to
could have
choose
both gone for that
It's
one.
Legendary, yeah. Yeah.
So maybe it's one that we should cover in the future. Seems likely. Seems likely we will.
I think you should. Because that's the first time I've heard of it, and I'd definitely like to hear more. So
Yeah.
I'll be tuning
Nice.
in for that
Have
one.
have you ever seen a UFO, Jamie?
I have not. No, I can't say I have. Like I have seen things that I have briefly misinterpreted as potentially some kind of flying object of extraterrestrial origin, but those thoughts rarely last more than 5 to 10 seconds before I go, it's just a pigeon.
Fair enough.
That can happen.
Can happen. I will say it was a particularly fast pigeon, in my defence.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yes, very very circular pigeon too. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd have been overeating. Someone had given it rice, one of those situations.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh.
So my comment this week, or a couple of comments, are actually about the merchandise that we mentioned last week, Alex. So we were planning on potentially getting your what's your buzzer when you talk about Dick Turpin. And we were planning on getting that made into merchandise, and there was a lot of positive feedback about this.
Well, there was a
Courtney,
few comments. I don't think there's enough to really justify making the merchandise.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is. To be fair, I mean, we're making it even if everyone hated it. Let's be honest. So Courtney, who's actually recently a Just Interesting YouTube member, one of the first members, says I'd waste a ton of money on merch. So that's good. And also, Adina Cooper says, I would 100% buy that shirt. So there seems to be a lot of love for your face. Yeah, your face would definitely be on it, Robin, saying a lot of those Dick Turpin quotes. So it's probably going to happen.
My face or Robin's face?
Oh, it's going to be your face for sure. The Dick Turpin one.
Well, I mean, I think I said in the last podcast that sounds like the saddest bit of merchandise ever. But sure, if there's a demand, hey, yeah, can't argue with capitalism, can you?
I mean, it would be wholly unique. No one could ever rip off that design, or you'd at least hope that they wouldn't be able to rip off that design if it was just your face.
Yeah. I imagine the chances of me bumping into someone wearing it would be very slim. But I mean, wow, what if that did happen? That would be amazing.
Yeah,
I think you wear it yourself.
Oh no, I'm
on every show.
No. I'm already get fed up.
People will look at you and be like, "Hang on a second, that guy's face is the same as the face on the. He must be famous." And then they stop you for your autograph.
Do famous people wear T-shirts with their faces on them? They don't need
all
to.
The time,
surely.
All the time. Nicolas Cage.
I don't know.
Every day.
Yeah, I heard when Joaquin Phoenix was promoting a documentary around 2005, he did wear a T-shirt with his face on it for an awful lot of that promotional tour.
Yeah.
Wasn't very effective. It wasn't very popular, especially not in Ukraine.
But there's loads of love for it. Rage Against the Dice says, I want the merch. Melissa Big Mac says, I'd buy an Alex T-shirt. Does anyone want to make contact? And and who else? There was more. There was Raph Hunter, Dick Turpin merch, please, with the palms together, praying hands. So there's love for it, man. There's love for it.
We can't get Dick Turpin merch, Martin. We'll see, won't we? Maybe.
We will.
Before we move on to our main topic of the week, we just want to say a huge thanks again to you, Jamie, for being on this week's podcast. And just to tell everyone, if they haven't already, go and subscribe to the SuperShow and have a listen to them. Yeah, what are you discussing? Can you give us a sneak preview of what you guys are discussing next?
I guess so. Well, first of all, before any sneak previews, I just want to say that's very kind of you to slip a plug in halfway through the podcast. Thank you to you for that. And I guess thank you to anyone else who is inspired to go and check out the SuperShow as a result. The most recent podcast actually went up today as we're recording this, and I'd imagine for anyone listening to this podcast in the next week or so, that will still be our most recent one. And we broke down a recent Microsoft and Xbox first-party game studio showcase. So the new Halo was there. They're bringing back Fable, for anyone who remembers those games.
Yeah.
So we broke down everything that was there, kind of shared our thoughts with it. And we put that podcast out once a week, every Friday, just kind of breaking down the latest news from the last week in gaming. So, I'd like to think it's fairly entry level, nothing too intense. And if anyone thinks they'd like that, then maybe go and check it out. Yeah.
I did
Cheers,
watch
Jamie.
that.
What I would say is that even if you're not into gaming, it's a great podcast just for the sheer banter that is produced on that podcast.
The sheer banter, yeah.
It is a great listen, and they're much more charismatic and together than me, Alex, and Robin. So do definitely go over there and check it out.
If anyone wants the easiest possible way to migrate from Just Interesting to the Super Show, Martin himself was actually on an episode of the Super Show a couple of weeks back. So if you need a familiar face or a familiar voice to guide you through an episode of the podcast, then seek that one out. Can't remember what it was called or what number it was, but find it because you'll be giving us views along the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
We did. We looked it up.
I'll post a link.
There you go.
Sorry, Alex.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Nice.
And also, I just wanted to add, Jamie, I have joined your Minecraft server
You have.
which is exclusive, I think, to your patrons. So
It is indeed, yeah.
yeah, thank you for inviting me on, and I've been having a great time.
You're very welcome.
I built a little house now.
Yeah.
I tried and failed to build the Just Interesting logo in Minecraft in my little house.
I've seen pictures of it. I haven't seen it in the flesh yet, so to speak. But the pictures were interesting. You know, you made some progress.
It needs work. I know that, but if anyone fancies helping me out, go over, join their Discord, join Jamie's Minecraft server. And yeah.
Do. I am a patron of the SuperShow, but I've never played Minecraft, so I will need my hand holding when I eventually pluck up the courage to join.
Super beginner friendly. A bunch of people started playing Minecraft for the first time, including our very own Chris, just to get involved in the realm, and I'm actually really pleased with how it's worked out so far. We've got a nice little community. Everyone's building their own houses, and most importantly, not stealing shit from one another or burning down each other's houses, which was a concern and something Alex Brown threatened to do almost immediately upon finding out that he could get involved.
I didn't though.
I can quote you if you'd like. I'm going to go through my Discord pirate message history. Just going to find out exactly what you said. You said, if not, I'll jump on and destroy everyone's wonderful creations sometime this week. That was on the 21st of July. Alex B 132 nailed him. Caught red-handed.
Okay, you got me. I didn't in the end though.
I did.
And some people there were kind enough to welcome me, and shout out to Peaswad as well, whose house there is ridiculous. He's put a lot of work into
Peaswad, who's a patron of both the Just Interesting podcast and the SuperShow.
Yeah.
So very supportive.
A regular on both Discords. He's the modern day Superman. As opposed to the old-fashioned Superman. I don't really know what that means, but
Christopher Reeve.
Take it as a compliment. Yeah, you're not in a wheelchair. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, I'm not dead.
Celebrate that fact. Enjoy life. La joie de vivre.
Okay, that's nice.
It took a rather dark turn. I mean, our next topic may well take a dark turn too. Let's discuss whether or not we're living in a simulation, because it's a massive question, right? This is like the origins and where we're at with the universe, right? It's one of the biggest questions we could possibly ask. So, Alex, can you answer this question for us?
I can. Yes, we are. No, I don't know. But
I believe I threw you in the deep end there. But Alex, I believe you have some information about kind of the theory itself, right?
Yeah, I do, and I'd like to set a kind of or tell a story before we begin, just to show that this isn't a question that has only just come up in recent years, despite Elon Musk, I guess, popularizing it by saying the chances of us living in base reality, like actual reality, is 1 in billions. I think he said that a few years ago. So he clearly thinks that we're living in a simulation. But this actually was first thought up thousands of years ago. Have either of you heard of Plato's cave?
Yes.
I have, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, this may, be irrelevant for you, but I wanted to just say it anyway to set the scene for anyone who hasn't heard this story, because I think it gives a good indication of the discussion of whether we're living in a simulation. So this is Plato's cave. Imagine a cave where people have been imprisoned from early childhood. They have no memories before being imprisoned. The prisoners are chained so that their legs and necks are fixed, forcing them to gaze at the wall in front of them and not look around the cave, each other or themselves. Behind the prisoners is a fire, and between the fire and the prisoners is a raised walkway with a low wall behind which people walk carrying objects or puppets. And they cast shadows on the fire, so the people can only see shadows cast on the fire. And to them, this is their reality. This is all that they know. The shadows that they see are as real to them as anything else. But then imagine one of the prisoners escapes from their chains or was set free. They would look around and see the fire, and this fire would hurt their eyes and make it difficult for them to see the objects casting the shadows. But eventually they'd work their way out of the cave, and they would see that the reality that they had known forever was actually not true, and that the real reality is outside the cave. So that was thousands of years ago that this was first thought up. But I think that kind of leads nicely into the question of whether we're living in a simulation. And it was kind of first brought back into the forefront after the Matrix film came out. Was it in the late 90s the Matrix came out, or early 2000s?
Yeah, 90s,
Yeah, I think it was
wasn't
99.
99, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. Let's have a quick look. I think it was 99. 99. Well done, Jamie. Yes.
There we go.
There you go.
So that was when it was again popularized, this theory. But then a few years later, in 2003, Oxford philosopher Nick Bostrom published a paper that really kickstarted the conversation called the simulation hypothesis. He basically proposed that there were 3 scenarios that were present. And he based this on the fact that technology is constantly advancing. And so it kind of relates back to games. If you think of games, over the last 40 years, we've gone from Pong or, Pac-Man, just very simple arcade machines, to fully realized 3D immersive worlds with VR and augmented reality. We've come such a huge way in such a short space of time. Assuming that technology continues to advance constantly, we will eventually, as a species, this is the hypothesis, reach a point where we can simulate reality that is indistinguishable from what reality is right now. And so he presents 3 different scenarios. One, either humanity reaches this point and is interested in creating these simulations, and then we're living in a simulation. Or 2, any civilization, whether it be a future human civilization or an alien civilization, if they reach the point where they can simulate the entire universe, they won't be interested in it at all. Or the most depressing scenario is that the amount of civilizations that reach this stage where they can simulate the entire universe is next to none. As in, we will wipe ourselves out before we get to that point. Mm-hmm. And that comes back to the great filter and the idea that humans would never, the reason we haven't spotted aliens is because all civilizations wipe themselves out before they get to that stage, which is a tad depressing, if not believable.
It seems quite likely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, the way things are at the moment. Yeah, you have to argue. If you have to argue, are we living in a simulation? If the answer to that is no, then you're thinking, yeah, we're not going to advance enough before we're all not here anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But the idea is that if technology does continue to advance, we will at some point be able to simulate the entire universe. And if that is the case, then what's to say that we're not in that simulation at the moment already?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the main things that comes up is currently, if we're looking at the capabilities to create a simulation that's that massive, right, to simulate everything in the whole universe, there's almost 2 issues. I think the first one is kind of the logistics, if that's what you want to call it, right? There isn't enough computing power in our world, right? In terms of, I think it was a stat that it would take all of the atoms in the universe just to simulate 300 electrons of our world. So in terms of trying to simulate everything, there simply isn't the capability to do it. So I think from a logistics point of view, where we're at the moment, it seems like that would be a very difficult thing to do, if not impossible.
Yeah.
And I think the second one is, if we were to create a simulation, and maybe you'll speak about this a little bit more, Alex, but if we are to create a simulation, or if we're in one now, wouldn't we see more glitches in the Matrix, to coin a phrase, than we currently are? Wouldn't we be seeing, I know in the Matrix it's deja vu, right, is the one that they see the 2 black cats as a glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we be seeing loads of glitches all the time?
Nah, Martin, you forget that they patched those glitches in patch 1.02. I don't know if you downloaded the update yet. I know it was quite big, but they did patch them out.
It's worse than the Warzone patches.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Years to download.
Can you imagine? Yeah, sorry, you're going to have to re-download the whole universe again. We just haven't got our patching tech in the right place.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Martin. Glitches are part of the evidence or supposed evidence that could suggest that we're living in a simulation. So scientists, believe it or not, are looking for these glitches among other indicators that we could be living in a simulation, which is mad, isn't it? It's like we're Sims and we've become self-aware that we're being controlled. People are looking for ways out of the simulation. You know, they're picking up telephones and phone boxes and trying to get out. But one of these ways is like a computer screen. If you zoom in very close, you see the pixels on the screen. And scientists have been trying to do that with the universe to kind of tell if, you know, that would be a good indicator that we're living in a simulation. If you zoom in to parts of the universe and come up with some, you know, you see the pixels at the end of the day. You see something artificial that would indicate that the universe is just made up of bits and bytes. Martin Savage, the professor of physics at the University of Washington, they basically used scientists to run simulations, and they assume that whoever would be simulating our universe would base the simulation on the same kind of principles that the simulations we run today are based on. So they assume that the universe would be on a mathematical lattice or a grid consisting of points and lines. So, you know, similar to games, I guess, would be made up with polygons. They're kind of looking for that kind of thing in the universe today. One way of doing this, he suggests, would be looking at high-energy cosmic ray particles to see whether there is a grid in the energy that they're producing. He says, you look at the very highest energy cosmic rays and look for distributions that have symmetry problems, which are not isotropic, which I'm not going to pretend to know what that means. But essentially, they're looking for a disturbance that something doesn't quite add up.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I think there's one thing, though, that really gets me about this, and that is an issue, and that's if we're in a simulation, we're basing this knowledge on knowledge that we've gained from living in a simulation, right? And so those people that have set up our simulation surely won't want us to know the parameters of the simulation, right? They wouldn't want us to know how to break out of the simulation itself. So unless their simulation has gone wrong and we've become sentient in those terms and are able to understand that we're in a simulation, then surely they would set the simulation up so that this didn't happen in the first place. So our knowledge wouldn't be applicable to the outside world, right? Outside of the simulation.
Right.
Yeah.
In the same way, EA wouldn't develop a version of The Sims in which the Sims themselves could become self-aware and try and figure out how to get out of The Sims.
Exactly. It's, you're working with different parameters.
Yeah. Unless, of course, that is part of the experiment itself to see how long it takes us to figure it out.
Right, how long it takes, or whether we're actually able to figure it out in our life, in the lifetime we've been given, so to speak.
Yeah. And then it kind of creates other instances where people have been, you know, so traumatized by this idea because they're thinking that they believe they are in a simulation, but then they become paralyzed and in fear of the fact that the scientists are about to switch the experiment off because we've become self-aware. You know, if the Sims were standing around, if the Sims were standing around not doing what you want, you'd get bored and switch it off, wouldn't you?
Exactly. So basically, they're worried they're about to quit without saving.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they're not turning it off anytime soon, are they? Look at the world.
No, they're enjoying it. In fact, I think they flicked a few extra switches at the start of the year just to see how we would react. They're having fun.
It's like roller coaster tycoon when you take away parts of the roller coaster, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
We'll see what happens. They all die.
I think it's interesting, AB, like the stuff you were talking about earlier, and scientists trying to look for almost glitches or anomalies, because there's the more traditional idea of a glitch in the way that Marta was talking about earlier, and the way we imagine things presenting themselves, like the Matrix presents them, like visible glitches that we can see as problems in the simulation. But there's also this idea of the way video games are made nowadays and the way they're presented to us, in which there are tricks, there are workarounds. You think of that idea of, the bottlenecking of hard drive and SSD speeds and how that determines how much visual information gamers are given at any one time. And so one of the ways that developers work around that is that if you imagine a protagonist, a player character, with a first person or third person having a cone of vision that goes outwards, 45 degrees from where they're standing. One of the things that developers do is they don't render or generate any of the stuff behind them because it would be useless information, because the gamer isn't looking at it at that point in time. And you wonder if one of the shortcuts towards getting a version of a simulation of our universe that was indistinguishable from what we see our universe, if there are shortcuts and workarounds that were used in the process, and if that's what these scientists are trying to spot or might eventually spot, for all we know. That would be an interesting way of thinking about it as well, I wonder.
It's the old, if a tree falls in a forest, does it make a sound? And the answer, no, it doesn't, because it doesn't exist, because no one's looking at it. Yeah. And you've kind of touched on what is, I guess, I guess you could see it as strong evidence for this theory, which is quite well known now. The double slit experiment. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
I'm not familiar. I've read the Wikipedia page for The Matrix far more times than I care to admit, but I don't remember this experiment in particular.
So this is...
I think we've been over it before a few years ago, Alex.
Yeah.
But please remind me.
So this is a real experiment, and it's, to this day, scientists can't explain this phenomenon. And it's basically to do with like quantum mechanics. And yeah, so what scientists did was they fired electrons against two impact points. So imagine like a plate of metal with two slits in them. Okay. So they imagine firing up loads of marbles at this single sheet of metal with two slits in them. And then the marbles go through and make a shape on the back wall. What shape would you expect those marbles to make?
Fired at a fast enough velocity so that they weren't affected by gravity or something between passing through the slit and hitting the wall on the backside. You imagine it would only be possible that they would resemble the shapes of the slits themselves, right?
Exactly, yeah. You would have two lines of marbles embedded on the back wall. However, if you were to try this with water, like a wave, which is different than matter, which is like marbles, when the waves pass through the slits, the interference from the waves, if you imagine, they would kind of go outwards. They would spread outwards. It's difficult to describe this without any kind of visuals. I think I know what you mean. And so
we'll take your word for it.
And so the back wall wouldn't be two lines if it was liquid, basically, if it was waves.
Okay.
So when they shrunk this experiment down to the quantum level, fired electrons against the two slits, and electrons being matter, you would expect them to behave the same way as marbles would. However, they behaved more like waves. They wouldn't make two lines on the back wall. So they would behave not like matter, basically. However, and this is the weirdest part of this experiment, when scientists recorded this phenomenon, as in when they put a camera in the room and recorded this happening, because they were trying to figure out why this was the case. So that was the only part of the experiment they changed, just the fact that they were observing it happening. Then the electrons behaved like matter again and made two lines on the back wall.
How they should have done when they weren't observing it.
Yeah, it was almost like they knew that they were being observed.
Have they not been able to repeat this experiment since then? And
no, it's
like why is this experiment seem to have occurred in a one-off where they said, well, we can't record it, let's give up, not coming back to this again?
Oh, it's not.
Or do they keep
it's
doing
not a
it?
one-off. It's a known phenomenon. Like it's. I
They've
think it's
repeated
just
it a lot since.
What if I stood really, really far away with a camera with 100 times zoom?
I think they've repeated this under lots of different scenarios, but essentially it's if it's being observed in any kind of capacity, then it behaves like matter. Even
if someone was like making a Snapchat out of it or something like that.
Even if someone was making, even if it was a Snapchat and it gets deleted after 10 seconds or whatever.
Yeah. I was trying to think of workarounds.
Actually, I've said that. I don't know if they've tried that. They probably haven't. get on it, science.
Yeah.
Exactly. Weird though, but that suggests the long and short of that suggests that there is potentially some kind of glitch here because it's not working as it should, unless it's being observed.
Well, it suggests that suggests that same thing that you were talking about with the games and the field of view, that
not being rendered, hasn't been rendered.
The universe can change depending on whether humans are observing it, which might suggest that.
Oh, I see.
Which might suggest that we have some impact on that, and thus, the universe was designed around us like a simulation.
And again, very particular sort of processes that may be, let's say, quite labor-intensive on any theoretical machine or whatever that was processing this simulation in real time for billions of people, would start to slack a little bit in areas where it knew it wasn't being observed, in much the same way that we were talking about with the games.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes. Or just simply doesn't need to act that way because we're not in contact. Yeah. Interesting. Really interesting.
It is interesting, isn't it? I mean, I've probably butchered that experiment, so there's some scientists in the comments who are cringing at me right now, so apologies. But yeah, well, I mean, what do you think? Do you think we could be living in a simulation?
The thing is, there's like so many prominent scientists, and I don't know, what's the word? Like Elon Musk, is he a scientist? Not really a scientist, is he?
No, he's a businessman.
I don't know if he's.
There's been scientists. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson said that it's definitely a possibility.
He's a major one. Who are so convinced of the fact that we are living in a simulation, or at least they think it's the overwhelming likelihood. You've got to take it seriously, haven't you? People that genuinely know a lot more than we do about this, clearly, are convinced, or at least think it could be a possibility. So I think discounting it, you discount it at your peril.
Definitely.
Is there enough proof? Probably not. I think the question of whether, even if we are living in a simulation, the fact is we probably won't know about it because those who've created the simulation will not want us to know about it, will remain regardless, right? Like, for instance, they could be building up the simulation with the experiment you said to see how we react to the experiment, right?
Yeah.
So they set up so that, okay, the waveforms don't act as they should unless we're watching, because they want to see how we react when the waveforms don't react as they should when we're watching. You know, there's this kind of meta inception of no matter what we see in our simulation, no matter what kind of inconsistencies we see, those could have been set up by the people who've created the simulation.
So do you think that
we could be living in a simulation, but we'll never know about it?
Yeah. And if we did figure it out, they could just like click their fingers and reset that person's mind to not think that.
Right.
They could change the parameters.
Yeah. So would you say then that if you had the option to take the red pill or the blue pill and find out if we're living in the simulation, would you take the red pill, or would you, is ignorance bliss?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, because we're going to directly reference the Matrix again, that's an idea that kind of, with the exception of the fact that the Nebuchadnezzar doesn't look like a great place to hang out, and I'm not sure that Tasty Wheat is for me, the idea of being able to reinsert oneself into a theoretical matrix and have more control over the simulation is kind of appealing. But I think if the reality was just kind of this weird self-awareness and even less of a sense of control over your life and your purpose than we already feel, I kind of tend to err on the ignorance is bliss side of things. And I was thinking even just then when Martin was discussing it, it's absolutely a possibility. And you're right that, there's no sense in kind of dismissing the possibility outright. But at the same time, I'm never going to devote my life or commit to finding out the reality behind the situation. And nor do I think I want to have the burden of that knowledge. It's taken me long enough to try and adapt to the world we do live in and all the crazy fucking shit that goes on out here that we can't control and just have to ride that wave. I don't want the added complication of thinking like, is someone watching me right now? Like, has someone made it rain because they know I've just left the house? And I don't need that in my life. Ignorance is bliss.
Do you agree, Martin?
Yeah, I mean, I think post 1999, there were a lot of kids walking around in trench coats, being like, "I'll take the red pill," and the reality is that if your reality when you take the red pill is so much worse, do you want to be living in that situation? And for most people, I think it's a no. But then again, do you want to be living in a false world? I don't know.
Well,
it's a weird one because if you're deciding whether you take the red pill or the blue pill, you know that the red pill exists, right?
Yeah.
You have some knowledge that that's actually an option. Whereas if you take the blue pill,
Good point.
You don't even
Good
know.
point.
You don't even know that the options are there. So it's not like you're deciding to take the blue pill. I don't know. It almost when you're thinking about which one to take, it almost you're deciding
because it's
between
almost
something
like,
you know exists.
Well, because within the context of the Matrix, taking the pill that acknowledged existence of the Matrix, it did more than just give you that knowledge. It took you out of the Matrix, and in a world where Morpheus and his crew had assembled a way to reinsert you into the Matrix. But you're right, if we're saying that it's not possible to ever leave the simulation, then purely the offer of the pills alone would be the confirmation that knowledge that it exists, and that would give you the knowledge. It's kind of strange.
Yeah.
That makes the pills situation a bit weird.
Doesn't like I can't really remember the film that well, but doesn't the blue pill make him forget ever knowing?
He says like you'll wake up tomorrow and go back to your regular. I think you're right that Morpheus does imply that there's some element of the blue pill that will mean that you'll have no knowledge of it. But Neo could have just legged it out of the room at that point, saying I'm not going to take either of them.
Yeah,
and then he would have had the knowledge and been in.
Never take drugs and then run out. Yeah.
Yeah. Say nope to dope, folks.
Well,
don't follow that white rabbit.
Well, I'd like, based on what you've both just said, I'd like to bring things full circle back to the end of Plato's story about the cave, when the person who went outside the cave felt sorry for those that were still trapped inside the cave, and they went back into the cave. However, their eyes had become so accustomed to the sunlight that they were blinded when they re-entered the cave. They couldn't see anything. And the prisoners would infer from the returning man's blindness that the journey out of the cave had harmed him and that they should not undertake a similar journey. And the prisoners would therefore reach out and kill anyone who attempted to drag them out of the cave. So Plato thinks everyone would take a blue pill, and it seems like, you guys agree.
Maybe.
Ignorance is bliss.
Interesting one to open up to the audience there. We'll put in a poll for this one, I think.
Yeah,
would
definitely.
you take the blue pill or the red pill? Blue being having ignorance and red knowing that we're in a simulation, basically. Let us know in the poll above.
Yeah.
Cool. Are you guys up for a quiz?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay, so as always, it's 10 questions and a bonus question if you're tied. General knowledge with a few gaming questions chucked in for good measure, Jamie.
What? How is that fair?
Because you're a gamer
like to
too,
see.
Alex. You're a gamer too. And plus, I've included games that I know you like and have played.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. Buzzers, that's where we're at. Buzzers. Alex, do you have your classic buzzer that you use most weeks?
I do indeed. When it's the SuperShow versus Just Interesting podcast, I need my awesome whirls.
Has always been celebrated for its excellence. There is a California champagne by Paul Masson.
There you go.
Nice.
Very nice indeed. I admire that choice an awful lot. I want you to know that.
It's a good one.
Thank you.
Jamie, what have you gone for?
I've gone for another internet classic, Martin Ruffle. Allow me to introduce.
Yes, how can she slap?
How could she slap? It's a
How can she
valid
slap?
question. How can she slap?
The full version of that video is brutal. Have you seen it?
I know. He just gets absolutely demolished. They all come in and... Yeah, well...
Yeah. Anyone who hasn't seen that has no idea what's going on, but just type in how can she slap on YouTube and you'll
I don't
find
know
it.
if I've actually watched the whole video. I think I've only heard the sound bites.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, it's worth watching.
Yeah,
It's
I
worth
don't
watching.
actually know the
It
context
is.
of it.
It is.
It is.
Okay.
It is. After this, you're going to have to watch Alex. Sorry, it's going to have to be done.
I'll live stream my reaction.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what our maybe for Patreon. Maybe for Patreon.
That's worth watching.
Okay, so quiz time. Are you ready? Question.
Let's do it.
Number 1. What is the best-selling chocolate bar worldwide?
Has always been celebrated for its sex.
Oh, that was close. Let's go for the guest, Jamie. What do you think?
Oh, that's how it's going to play, is it? I see.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I buzzed because it was a nice, good general knowledge question. I'll be totally honest. I don't have a clue. I don't have the slightest clue. I'm going to say it's a Snickers bar, even though people have nut allergies. Just going to throw it out there.
You are bang on. It's Snickers.
There we go.
Number
Yes.
one in the
wow.
world. I guess it's universal, isn't it? Like you go to the US and you ask for a Milky Way, and they're giving you a whole load of caramel. That's not a Milky Way in the UK.
Yep.
So there's differences. Whereas
100%
Snickers is universal, isn't it? I
And
believe
I
that's
will
right.
say we had this question on our Discord a while back.
Oh, really?
What's everyone's favorite chocolate bar? And no one said Snickers, but Snickers is the best.
I love a Snickers.
It is the best.
It is
I might not say
a
the best.
fantastic chocolate bar.
If you're really hungry, a Snickers is great. If you like peanuts, if you don't like peanuts, there's probably people that are going to comment saying they hate Snickers. Fine, fair enough. But
Well,
then
they're
again,
wrong. It's they're wrong. I'm sorry.
it's a good.
People have spoken, okay?
The people have. Us three have spoken. 1-0 to Jamie. Congratulations on that first question. Question number
Thank you.
2. What does a cobbler do? Jamie.
I believe a cobbler repairs shoes.
A cobbler does repair shoes.
There we go. Shout out to Adam Sandler.
2 points. Oh, okay. Okay, nice.
Yep, there you go.
Alex, you still there?
I'm still here.
You
Yeah.
seem- you
I was
seem right.
surprised I didn't hear a
was-
bit of Orson Welles on that one. I
was
thought
thinking of
cobbling
Orson
would
Welles.
be right up your street. Yeah.
What was the Adam Sandler film?
I think he was just in a film called The Cobbler, which was notorious for A, not being very good, and B, because the director of The Cobbler went on to direct Spotlight, the Oscar-winning film.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's quite,
weird
quite a
one.
career path.
Yeah, for some reason when cobbler you said the word, it was just like a blank spot in my knowledge. I immediately
fair
thought
enough.
someone who puts cobbles on the streets.
Okay,
you know,
cobbler,
which
yeah.
would make sense, but
You know, it's one of the, it's kind of like it's like an oldie woldy thing, like one of those jobs that doesn't really exist anymore. I'm sure the various cobblers in the Just Interesting comment section will be furious right now. But anyway, well done, Jamie. 2-0. Question number 3. What year did they start building the Titanic?
There is a California champagne
Alex.
by Paul.
is this closest wins? Because this feels like a closest
You know what?
wins.
Let's.
Well, actually,
go on
unless I
then.
get a
Go
spot
on
on.
then. Yeah, if you get a spot on, I'll give you the point. But otherwise, let's go closest wins.
1902.
Okay.
Say that again?
1902.
Okay. I've got no clue. I'm going to say 1912.
1912 is when the Titanic sailed. But it started construction 3 years before that in 1909. So, Jamie, you are closest.
Oh my
See,
god.
that's one of those things where, I just have to be fully transparent, I feel very guilty about getting the point with that, because if Alex hadn't gone first, I could have said 1750. I had no clue. I'd have believed the Titanic had done anything at any point in time. I've got no clue.
I was thinking, like, I can't believe it's only taken them 3 years to build that. But
I
then
know.
it did sink on its first
It-
trip.
yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense.
Well.
So
it was a rough job.
I'm trying to put my hands up and say I feel very bad to have taken the point there, because I
Jamie,
wouldn't have,
Jamie, welcome to the quiz. This is how it works over
I
here.
guess so.
I mean, there's some shameless things, usually from Alex, when someone puts in a closest wins, and he'll go one above or one below.
See, yeah, I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to immediately make myself an enemy to the people of the Just Interesting community.
Oh, you couldn't be,
Yeah,
Jamie.
don't-
You couldn't
don't
be.
worry.
You're too much of a national treasure. 3-0. Wow. Question number 4.
You didn't have to add the wow there, Martin. It's fine.
No, I think keep adding the wows. Keep adding the wows.
It's a good start. That's all I'll say. Question 4. What is the most southerly capital city in the world?
Oh. Oh.
Did you say southernly?
Yes.
Canberra.
No. Good guess.
There's a California champagne
Yes,
by
Alex.
Paul Masson.
I can't actually remember what the capital is. Is it Christchurch?
No.
Is it the right country though?
Not, do you want me to give a clue?
Yeah.
Before you... It's the right country.
Well,
There's a California champagne by Paul Masson.
I
Yes.
think, again, feels a bit unfair, but I'm 3-0 down. I need every advantage.
Yeah.
Is it Auckland?
No.
Oh no!
Jamie,
What's
it's
the
your
other
turn to
city?
guess.
Wellington?
It's Wellington.
Oh shit!
Yeah, Wellington it is. Good knowledge
Oh,
for
wow.
getting the country. Just
Two.
the capital cities knowledge needs a bit of tuning.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
4-0.
Unlucky, pal.
Wow.
Oh,
Question
this is
number 5.
annihilation.
Question number 5, the first of the gaming questions. So
Oh, God.
could get worse.
Oh no!
Question 5. What was the name of the protagonist in GTA 3?
There's a California champagne by Paul Masson.
Alex.
What I've done there, Martin, is the classic case of buzzing while, and now I'm padding out my answer
While
without
thinking.
actually knowing what.
Okay.
The
It's
answer
giving
is.
me
I'm
thinking time as well, and I need it.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know. GTA 3. I don't know. No.
You don't know.
I think I know his first name.
The first name is all we need because the surname isn't mentioned in the game.
I think his name is Claude.
It's 5-0. Claude is correct.
Oh my god! I wouldn't have got that.
This is
GTA 3.
GTA 3.
Martin.
GTA 3. Yes, you were alive then, weren't you? What was it? 2001.
I wasn't 18 then.
2001, yeah.
True. Yeah,
I wasn't 18 then. Though,
neither of
when
you
you
were
were
18.
legally allowed to play it.
Legally.
I managed to figure it out. I don't know what Alex has been doing with his life since then. But...
No, I do remember playing it growing up, but I never paid much attention to the story or even the main character's name.
The names, I think, GTA 4 was really one where people, well, I'm sure others too, but GTA 4 was kind of like Nico Beleg's kind of quite a standout name.
Yeah. If you asked me that one, I would have got it.
Yes. Yeah. True. Oof! Wow. 5-0. Question number 6.
It's going to be 5. It's going to be 5-all, and then I'm going to bring it back on the bonus question.
The drama.
I'm almost sure of it. Question 6. Who wrote Alice in Wonderland?
Celebrated for its excellence.
I think you got there first, Alex.
I don't remember. No.
He's flustered now.
No. I am. What was his name?
I think I know it.
God.
I think I know it.
Oh God, no!
I'll give you a little
just
bit.
prolonging the
yeah.
inevitable.
I'll give you 5 seconds.
No, it's not going to happen, is it? Oh,
No.
this quiz sucks, Martin.
It gets passed over. What are you thinking, Jamie?
Yeah, officially. I think it's Lewis Carroll.
It's Lewis Carroll. Wow,
Yes.
that
Shit,
is. This is something else.
Now you can say wow. Now you can say wow, Martin.
I feel kind of bad.
I mean, don't feel bad. Do not feel bad, Jamie. You've come along here and you've
should
wiped the
feel
floor.
bad.
It's
The part of the reason I feel bad again is like I buzzed a little bit after Alex there, but I also buzzed not knowing the answer.
I mean,
And
that
I
seems to
got
be a
there
theme.
during the thinking time.
It seems
I mean,
to be a
that's been
theme.
my strategy this whole quiz.
And to be fair, for season 3, I know we're just at the start of season 2, but season 3, Alex, I reckon that we're going to have to bring in a law that says if you buzz and then don't answer, a point is taken away.
Oh, that would make people think twice.
Yeah, big time.
I actually quite like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it would
Oh,
cause.
that does destroy my entire strategy.
Yeah, it would destroy strategy and it would cause massive arguments as well. But hey, we'll get to that when it comes. Question number 7. What type of food is a choripan?
Celebrated for its excellence.
Oh, I think it
There's
was
a
Alex.
California.
Again though, while the rule is still there, I've done it. A choripan.
Choripan.
Is it a type of curry?
It's not a type of curry.
I don't know. I've never heard of it. I'm going to say it's a type of cake, a baked good of some kind.
No. I'll give a clue. Okay. It's made up of two things, and the word choripan includes elements of both of those words.
Oh, okay. Is it some kind of...
There's a California champagne.
He's
by
coming in.
You need to buzz.
I didn't realise we were re-buzzing. Sorry. Let
no.
Alex go for it. Alex, go for it. I think...
Go for it, Alex.
Is it choripan?
Yeah, chori. What could
Is
chori
it pan like it? Is it like chorizo bread?
I'm going to give it to you. It's chorizo, like a sausage. It's like a hot dog, an Argentinian street food snack, like a hot dog in bread, like a spicy sausage in bread, and people have it at soccer matches, football matches, as a snack. It's what they go to.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
Very nice.
yeah.
All I
Choripan.
wanted was 1 point, so
There we
done.
go. It's not what they call a donut in the game, where you're zeroed. So that's good. That's good. 6-1. Question number 8. In what place does Uncharted 3 start?
There's a California champagne by Paul Masson.
Yes, Alex.
Is it like a bar in London, like a pub in London?
It is. I was only going for London, but yes, it is. That bar fight scene in London, isn't it?
Yeah, the Irish pub.
It is. Yeah.
Well done, well done. Actually, my favourite of the 3 original games. Controversial, I know. But yeah, I just thought the kind of the big action sequences just
They were really.
they
good
blew out the
ones,
water.
yeah.
I know that
Interesting.
number 2 especially, and a lot of people refer to the opening scene where you're climbing up that fallen train as being really cinematic. But just in terms of how many big cinematic sequences in 3 that there were, I just really liked it.
It's fair enough.
Jamie disagrees.
I know you both.
I haven't.
I've spoken to you both about it previously, and I know you both disagree. But that's fine.
That's fine. That's fine. That's.
I like 3 though. I did like 3.
I liked 3 as well.
4
3
was
is my
favourite.
least favourite. 3 is my second least favourite.
After 1, yeah.
But it also means it's my third favourite.
For me, it goes 4-3-2-1 for me. I haven't played the Lost Legacy. 4-3-2-1. Whereas most people, I think, would go 4-2-3-1.
I think so. Yeah, that's for me.
Yeah.
Lost Legacy nestling somewhere in there. Lost Legacy maybe even nestling above 3, controversially. But
Okay.
for a story for another time.
Interesting. Anyway, I digress. That's 7-2. 6-2. Question number 9.
I'm bringing it back.
Yeah. How many minutes of play are there in an ice hockey game?
Excellence. There's a California champagne.
I think Alex just made it onto the buzzer there.
I need to start my YouTube videos from a different point. I'm getting a second of dead air every time I press play.
I've had so much practice with this buzzer. This, I don't know, 80 minutes.
No. Not
Okay.
80.
I don't know.
I'll say 60.
It is 60. It's 3 lots of 20. 3 lots of 20 minutes, 60 minutes. Good knowledge, Jamie. I thought you might know
Why
that one.
didn't I just guess 60 minutes? Oh.
To be fair, though, Alex, to your credit, not many sports games have 60 minutes, really, do they? Like football's 90, rugby's 80. Don't know. Basketball, what's that? 4 lots of 10?
Basketball's another one with...
4 lots of 15. 4 lots of 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I
And
can't think
then
of any others.
NFL is quarters as well, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although
probably
those
should
are
have
actually
gone with
those
that
are
as a
those
guess.
are 4 15 minutes, aren't they? So maybe there are quite a few with 60.
Maybe. I don't know.
Anyway, that's 7-2. Question number 10. According to the Beatles' song Eleanor Rigby, where does Eleanor keep her face?
How can you stop?
Yes, Jimmy.
I think she keeps her face in a jar. I don't know if that's enough detail, but it's a jar that she keeps by the door or the window or something like that.
Yes, the face that she keeps in the jar by the door. Well done.
There you go. Thank you.
Very good. Did you know
Fair
that one,
enough.
Alex?
No, I didn't. Admittedly, I think this is a very fair victory. I've been absolutely blown out of the water, Martin.
You have, but I
Yeah.
don't. You know, I
not,
don't.
I'm not mad. Not mad at this one at all. Normally, I storm out Jamie, create a big fuss.
You're shell
Well,
shocked,
that
aren't
was
you?
well done. I am a bit. That was fair enough.
I mean,
Well
what's
earned.
Yeah,
that?
you're-
8-2. Yeah.
Yeah. And I tried every dirty trick in the book on that one. Buzzing for every single answer and not knowing. Yeah.
Oh, it happens.
You've been
fair
very
enough.
gracious in defeat.
It's a
Yes.
first, I think. This is an actual first. Normally I'm not.
I appreciate it.
I think
Yeah.
the fact that it's probably not going to go on your permanent record on the old table. I mean,
That
there'll
does
be-
contribute a little bit, yeah.
There will be another table, I'm sure, on screen now. Just like a guest table.
This is going on our just interesting record, though, Martin. So you should be as upset as I am.
Oh, I'm devastated.
This
I'm
is a loss
devastated
for
you.
us.
I thought all these questions would
Then
be.
why'd you make the quiz so hard, Martin?
Well, it wasn't that hard. Jamie did all right, didn't he?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. By traditional measures, I'm quite dumb. I went through most of my school life being dumb anyway.
Does
Don't
that
know what
help?
that says about you, Alex.
Does
but
that help?
It's
Yeah.
not a great reflection.
Does that make you feel better, Alex?
Oh, yeah, this
Hey,
makes me
hey, Alex, how does it feel to be beaten by an idiot?
Oh, I don't think anyone can say that about you, Jamie.
It's definitely not true
My
as
dad
well.
does.
It's not true at all. It's not true at all. Are you up for the bonus question, Alex, or do you want to leave it there?
Just pack it. Let's pack it in.
No,
I'm
I
always
wanna hear the bonus.
always up for it. Always up.
Always a bonus. Okay, bonus question. Closest wins on this one. What amount was offered as a reward by the US government for information leading to the capture of Al Qaeda's previous leader, Osama bin Laden? What reward was
It's a
offered?
California champagne by Paul Masson.
Yes.
Mine was pinwheeling.
Go for it, Alex.
Oh no, go.
I hate
Go
it,
for it,
Matt.
Jamie.
No. I think you would have got it before me anyway. Plus, if you
Um,
answer first, then I can, make a sensible guess based off your amount, and I won't let that down.
You're an expert at this quiz already. I'm going to go for $10 million.
Okay, $10 million.
That's
Yeah. What was your-
significantly higher than I thought it was going to be.
What was your initial thought?
My initial thought was closer. I mean, maybe I'm lowballing now. For some reason, I had in my head like closer to the $1 million mark. But then again, I guess for someone of the stature of the Big O, maybe that was lowballed a bit.
You think it could be a Dr. Evil kind of thing of $1 million and then $100 billion?
Maybe.
Yeah. Let's see.
I don't know, because I don't know. I feel like they sometimes that stuff was almost a bit of a token as well. They didn't want it to be a significant enough sum of money that anyone actually thought, you know what, I'm going to go and find it myself. But I'm not going to play the game and say 9 million or 11 million. I'm going to say 5.
Okay, 5. Add 20 million to that and you've got the right answer. It is $25 million.
Wow,
Yeah.
Oh wow.
impressive,
$25 million.
impressive.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
I mean, my logic was that's just pennies to the U.S. military budget,
It's true.
isn't it?
well, that's it, isn't it? That's it. So yes, $25 million, which I don't think anyone got, did they? No. Try and make a posthumous claim for that one.
No, I watched Zero Dark 30, and I certainly don't remember anyone buying their holiday homes after that film ended. It's kind of the opposite, if anything.
Yeah.
Well, then
true.
maybe it's like winning the lottery, as in they went for the secret option where they took a bit less, but they didn't have to reveal their identity.
Oh, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't have to pose for a picture with a bottle of champagne saying, I killed Osama bin Laden.
Yeah,
Well, like on a Bullseye, when they're allowed to have the car, but they can get cash, but it's not worth anywhere near as much. Yep. All these things are applicable to the Osama bin Laden reward. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for
Is that the
joining
point
us
we're
this
ending?
week. That's where it ends. That's where it ends. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us, mate. It's always a pleasure. We enjoy speaking to you
no.
anyway. So if anyone's out there who loves gaming or doesn't love gaming, go over and head to the Super Show for great bats and some gaming chat and also some non-gaming chat too. Honestly, it'll be worth your while. I love it. I listen to it every week. I'm a patron supporter. Put my money where my mouth is. And if you,
I really appreciate. I was going to say I really appreciate you guys having me on. The pleasure was genuinely all mine, and you've been very gracious hosts. Alex Brown, very gracious in defeat in the quiz. which I was very happy to have won. But no, it really means a lot, you guys having me on to begin with, but also being so generous with your kind words about the other channel.
No worries, mate. No, it's been fantastic to have you on, and thank you so much for your input.
Absolutely,
and your wonderful farting news story. That was a particular highlight.
Shout out to Panera Bread, sponsored by Panera Bread.
Exactly.
Get it in there one more time.
Exactly. It's true. If anyone wants to hear more of us, I don't know why you would, but you might. Then head on over to our Patreon, where we're discussing other topics. We've discussed a whole load of topics. We've got about 20 odd, haven't we? Extra, a little more interesting topics. So plenty of hours of us blabbering on like old women, which I think someone commented a few weeks ago. So if you want to do that, please do. If not, we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Cool.
See you next time.
Goodbye.